Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to continue our Chinese language learning journey from last week's video, and we're going to be focusing on some new Chinese characters. Now, last video I touched on the 4 or 5, depending on how you want to look at it, but 4 Chinese tones, which every single character in Chinese has. So today I wanted to launch into teaching you guys 10 of, the most important characters in Chinese, from my opinion. You might hear from different sources, there are, more frequently used characters, but these provide a great foundation to start your character, word bank. So, the reason I'm doing it this way, now when people first start learning Chinese, they generally start off with just learning the phonetics in the system called pinyin, which is the romanization of Mandarin Chinese. Now, I can create a video series on going through all of those sounds, but generally I feel like it's good to get a bit of a taste of what the language is like itself. And the biggest difference with Chinese in comparison to any other language in the world is the characters. So, today, we're going to be going through, as I mentioned, 10 of what I believe are the most fundamental characters that you'll need to know. And you can feel free to watch this video a couple times if I go too fast or you need to rewatch or write them down. What I would recommend you doing is just recognizing the character to start off with, remembering its pronunciation, practicing that a few times, listening to the pronunciation, and getting used to the sounds. And obviously remembering the meaning. And then over time, you'll get better and better and it'll become, memory recall, and you'll be able to read the character when you see it. So I've written a list, but the first character and, one that we use every day, every time we're speaking, is the character I or me. There is no variation in Chinese, it's just a single character, and hopefully I can put it up here somewhere, but it is pronounced wo. That's W-O, wo, me, I. Okay, so that's wo. Now, the character looks quite complex, which again is why beginners usually don't start by learning Chinese characters. They generally start off with that pinyin system. However, I think it's good to get early on exposure to the Chinese characters. I mean, that's what the whole language is sort of based on. And it's a great starting point in my opinion. So, wo, I. Now, the next character I have is, of course, the inverse or the complement of that, and that is you. So, ni. Okay, that means you. Ni. Now, this is ni. Again, the character looks a little bit more straightforward in terms of it has less strokes than the first word, wo, we just went through, but ni also has the same tone, which is the third tone. So both of the characters we just learned, both have the third tone, which in the first video I went through is that V looking tone, which is a little bit difficult sometimes for English speakers or, non-native Chinese speakers to master, but that's okay. You will get there with time and practice. So ni. Okay, now the next one is a little bit complicated, but try not to overthink it. Let's just focus on remembering these for now. So the next one is ta. That's T-A with a high flat tone, ta. And that means he, she, and it. Now, there are 3 different characters for this phonetic sound, but verbally, we do not differentiate between he, she, and it. It is all pronounced ta, that's high flat, ta. Okay, now again, you can just try to get a feel for what the characters look like. We won't break them down in too much detail because there's a lot to learn. It's just sort of good to see that there is a difference with the written characters, even if it is very small. Okay, the next one is men. All right, M-E-N, no tone, men, okay? Now this is actually a grammatical character, and I want you to remember it because we'll be using it in future videos. We're not going to use it right now, but it's used to make things plural, okay? So you can add this to other characters to make, you know, I become we. But we won't go into too much detail right now. I just want you to recognize the character, hear the sound, and remember sort of what it looks like. Okay? Men. The next one, and probably one of the most used Chinese characters, is shi. That's S-H-I with a fourth tone, okay? That really sharp descending tone, that no, okay? No. Shi. Shi, okay? That's, yes, S-H-I falling tone, okay? And this means to be. It's the verb to be. Shi. Shi, okay? I am. 我是, okay? Now, again, we'll have a whole nother video on verbs in the future, but this is one of the most important characters that you'll learn in Chinese. 是. Next, we have another grammatical character, okay? And again, it's in the fourth tone. 不. 不, okay? 不. Now that's B-U. Fourth tone falling sharp, okay? 不. And that is actually used to negate words or characters like 是, which we just learnt, is to be, okay? Again, I won't go too much into too much detail. We'll do a future video on negating verbs. But yes, this character is another grammatical character or article that we'll use later on and we'll learn and get used to in the future. So then we have another really important character, and that is 有. 有, okay? That means to have, okay? That's Y-O-U, and that again is that third tone, that V tone, a little bit difficult, a little bit tricky, okay? 有, okay? I have, we would use I 有, okay? I have. This is the same type of have, okay? Now, in some instances, this character can also mean there are, there is, okay? But again, we can have a whole nother video just on this character, 有, because it has so many different applications. But nonetheless, a very important character to get used to. You'll see it a lot. Okay. Now, the next character I have, visually is quite easy to remember. Now, it means people or person, both the plural and the singular, okay? And the R sound in Chinese, I'll need to do another video on too. It can be quite tricky for beginners, but this character is pronounced 人, okay? 人. Now this has a second tone, the first second tone we've seen in today's video, okay? That rising questionable what? 人, 人, okay? Little bit tricky to say. Now that's R-E-N, R-E-N with that second rising tone. 人 means people or person, okay? You'll see it a lot, particularly with nationalities. Okay, now our second last character is the possessive character. Again, another grammatical character, which we'll constantly see throughout as we develop our Chinese skills and get better and better. And that is 的, okay? D-E, no tone, okay? No tone at all, 的, okay? Now, again, it looks like a little bit of a tricky character, but don't worry, as long as you can recognize it, you don't need to be able to write it right now. We just want to be able to read it, okay? So it's 的. Now, you can make characters possessive, for example, I, or, you know, I becomes mine if we add this 的 character, but that is something I can show you in a future video and we'll learn together. Now, the final character of today is 好. 好 means good, okay? H-A-O, okay? 好 with that third tone, that V, you know, fall and rise tone, or dipping and rising tone, which is still a little bit tricky. 好, okay? And that means good. Again, I won't break down the character structure too much now because that is a little bit complicated, but it will all make sense in the future. And on that note, you're making a really good start just by watching these videos, practicing, writing the characters down, listening and practicing your pronunciation. Trust me, the more exposure you have to these Chinese characters, the easier it will be to read them in the future when you see them, you know, on a street sign, or if you see them pop up on your phone somehow, or in the news, wherever it may be. Exposure is key to success. So I hope today's video was useful, and I hope you found it helpful, and I hope, you know, ultimately you did learn something new, and I look forward to making our next video. I think the comments were disabled on my first one, but hopefully they should be working on this one. But please feel free to leave me any comments of what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see in the future, and we will continue our Chinese learning journey next time. See you guys.